Hey, Mike, good to talk to you. How are you today?
Always good to talk to you. Eagles and the Falcons, of course, to kick it all off on this Monday night. Let me get your quick take on the anticipation for the Falcons this year. Not very good the last 2 years. I think last year was a disappointment for them. Where are they now with the new head coach?
I think there's optimism. It's guarded optimism because talent certainly still wins in this league, and everybody's trying to figure out what's the talent level. You have bodies, you put together your 50s, your 46, you put together your 53, and then they're going to get an opportunity to try to slow people down and take the balls from people. And I think there's this idea, especially with what happened with the offensive line, that if you don't have enough guys in this league, it's going to be really hard to sustain. You might find a week, it might bounce your way, you might make breaks for yourself. The other guy might make mistakes. But unless you have bona fide talent in this league, 16 games is a long time. I think everybody down here is wondering what the talent level is and how much can it actually be coached up.
Chris, I look at the Eagles and I see a team that upgraded a top 5 offense. 2 years with Chip, 2 top 5s. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the Falcons were the worst team defensively in the league last year. Does this scream to you as a bad opening night matchup?
Well, it's funny because that has been one of the questions here. Who would you like? Sure, if you're going to actually cherry pick, give me somebody who doesn't score a lot of points. I get that. Hell, if you're going to break out a shiny new toy, break out a shiny new toy. If you're going to have if there's going to be this moment where the building is going to be electric and Dan Quinn's going to have these guys ready to prove to the world that they're no longer that team, this is the perfect opponent. I'm not sure you can play a shootout with this team. I think too much would have to go right. I get all of that. But I do think the problems actually with the Atlanta Falcons might be this idea that for the last couple of years, they were really a comfortable team to play against. Down and distance was awful, offensively and defensively. I got caught up, Mike, a few years ago, like a lot of people did. I get the stat sheet and I look at third down conversion, and I try to figure out, hey, what does that mean? Well, really what it is first and second down. Down and distance, offensively, 3rd and 8, you can't use all your playbook. The other guy's got a 2nd and 2. The world is his oyster. They couldn't get off the field and couldn't stay on the field. That defense got more exposed. Throw third down conversion out. Find out what they do on 1st and 2nd and what the other guy does on 1st and 2nd, and I'll tell you whether I have a shot this year.
I'm interested on your take. I know the Eagles are a team that gets to the quarterback, and they don't just get to the quarterback. They bring them down. They do get a lot of sacks back there. How's the offensive line match up with the pass rush of Philadelphia?
Well, once they get done introducing themselves tonight, it will be, let the games begin. I mean, Matt Ryan, he was on our station last week, and he said, look, my first phone call was basically to introduce myself. I'm not, hi, I'm Matt Ryan, but okay, look, welcome, let's go, let's get to work. And I think there's only so much you can do in a film room. Jake Matthews took an epidural this week. That's not a good sign. You got a brand-new center, guys who's bounced around to 5 teams. I don't think that's a good sign. I don't think there's really a good sign on the offensive line at all. Now the question is, can they bow up, man up? I don't know, give him enough protection. You got a rookie running back there and a second-year guy who hasn't really taken a snap in the preseason. If stuff breaks down, the idea that you can go out and swing catch a pass is great because you got speed. You got to get out into the flat. If you're protecting more than you're actually bumping outside, that route doesn't exist anymore. And then the other thing is Julio Jones. Look, you paid him a lot of money. You paid Matt Ryan a lot of money. The guy can't get a 5 or a 7-step drop. I mean, you might as well, I hate, it's so sports cliches, but you might as well have me out there if you're not going to be able to let Julio Jones go loose. And the only way he gets to go loose as fast as he is if Matt Ryan has time.
He's Chris Dimino, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, where the Eagles are tonight. I wonder, if there's something that you feel good about with Atlanta in this matchup. Where's an area where you think they have a good advantage?
That's a great question because it's really funny. That's how I kind of worded it this past week. What can you do well? The thing I know the Falcons, Matt Ryan, do better than anything they do in their arsenal is they play a hurry-up offense. He's smart enough to get to the line of scrimmage, pick people apart. The problem it goes back to is your running back ready for that? Can he bounce up after a 4-yard gain, get back, whether it's a quick huddle or no huddle at all? And can your offensive line handle that? These guys haven't done this dance together. I think the best thing they do might be negated by the idea that they haven't done it long enough as a unit. That's problematic. The one thing I will tell you, I think up the middle rush, I think they actually have a chance to mush it up a little bit this year. Vic Beasley's supposed to be a guy who can get to the quarterback. I hate the whole hurry thing. It doesn't really mean much to me. But if you push a guy out of his comfort zone, if you can get Bradford into a pile and all of a sudden it starts to fall down because guys are on the other side of the line of scrimmage, to me, that's the best bet to slow down your offense, especially when Bradford wants to drop back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Eagles' tempo. Somebody brought up an interesting point about this earlier on the show that, look, Atlanta is game planning. They're a team that gets ready for New Orleans and Tampa Bay and Carolina. Philadelphia is a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
They don't have the personnel that that has to go against this tempo. Is the tempo a big concern for Atlanta tonight?
Sure. And I'll tell you the one thing that Dan Quinn, one of the reasons I liked him coming over here is if you have a little less talent, there's one or two ways to do it. Mike Nolan's way was to send guys off of the light towers. That didn't work. His whole thing was I'd rather have 10 guys who had 4 sacks than 4 guys who had 10 sacks. Well, he realized, and so did everybody else, I'd like to have 4 guys with 2 sacks because this whole idea of playing that number game got silly. Nobody got to the quarterback here. I think when you're trying to play simple, this is not a read and react defense. This is a react defense. They got this rugby style tackling you might have heard about. Dan Quinn did it in Seattle. They're absolutely trying to install it here. And if you're going to, in my opinion, have a little less talent, don't make it complicated. Wade Phillips has been maybe the best defensive coordinator in short bursts in the NFL because it's simple. Find the football, see the football, hit the football, bring 3 of your buddies with you. You got to be able to catch it, though. Let's find out if they're fast enough. With your pace and tempo and some of the speed you have and ability to bounce outside, can you actually get somebody there with you? Is it one-on-one tackling? It might be key tonight. It might be. The idea is to swarm, 3-4 guys getting up off the ground with the guy with the football. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not so sure this group can really do the one-on-one type tackling stuff that might be necessary because they didn't do it the last couple of years. All of a sudden 3-yard gains turn into 6. Guys falling forward for an extra 3, and that down and distance thing's bit him in the ass all last year.
Chris Dimino, 680 The Fan, hosts the morning show down there called The Rude Awakening. Chris, let me get your thoughts on what concerns you more, Bradford or the new running game with Murray and Matthews?
I think Bradford. I do, because I think and I don't know how much play action you want to run with this. I think the idea of being able to freeze guys because you have good running backs. To me, if I'm the Eagles, I'm not selling out on Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. I'm actually pinning my ears back and going to get Matt Ryan. If I have to drop back on Julio, I will. I'm a little nervous that Bradford gets a hot hand, and all of a sudden you go a little play action, and now the world kind of becomes his oyster where he gets to play pitch and catch. And it probably includes guys coming out of the backfield. You want to pinch, that's great. You want to squeeze him, that's great. This whole idea of, maybe he's not so sure how healthy he's going to be for a whole year. I get no indication from everything I read that he's nervous about that. That part of it should not really come into play tonight. But if you can muck him up a little bit, let's see what happens. But I just think if he gets clean, I've liked him better than other people have. And I just think if he has an opportunity now with these types of weapons to have a little bit of a pocket, to be able to move step here, step there, I think he can rip it. I don't know if you guys have seen that, and maybe I'm off on that. I just think that's a guy that if he has time and obviously a little bit of health, I think he's a hell of a lot better than people have ever given him credit for. Probably because he hasn't proven it over a long period of time, but you can see he's talented. I mean, he is talented.
Chris Dimino here down in Atlanta. We've got all picks today going Eagles' way earlier today. What is the reaction in Atlanta? Are the fans in the Falcons' territory confident on a Monday night opener? Look, Atlanta's a much better team at home over the years in the Matt Ryan era than they are on the road. So Monday night at home.
That slowed down. 33-5 to begin, and it's been a lot worse than that lately. That's how you win 10 games in 22 years. You're not winning on the road and you're not winning at home. It should be an advantage. I don't think the Eagles are going to be flustered by whatever noise. I can tell you outside the building there's a bunch of Eagle fans here. I think people think the Falcons have to play arguably a little bit out in front of their skis. I don't think people think, this is me as well, I don't think if this is played straight, turnover battle isn't won by the Falcons, that down and distance thing all of a sudden on paper looks like it's a push. I think the Falcons have to be better in a few of those territories. I can tell you this, the most valuable player on this team in the last 2 years is Matt Bryant. The problem with the Eagles, you talked about the matchup, I don't think field goals win this type of game. I can win a field goal game against some teams. I don't think I'm winning with field goals here. Red zone comes into play, but I think it was cautiously optimistic for the entire season. I think people, even Falcons fans, think this might be that bad matchup you talked about at the very beginning.
All right, he's Chris Dimino, 680 The Fan in Atlanta Sports Station, where tonight the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Atlanta Falcons. Coverage here on 97.3 starts at 6. The kickoff at 7 with Merrill and Mike. Chris, always a pleasure, pal. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, Mike, listen, good. I mean this too. Good luck this season. Hopefully you guys